Hello friends, welcome to part 2 of the training on the IBM System I configuration management tool Aldon. Starting from this point onwards, I will be giving a demonstration of all topics on the tool which have been discussed so far and also on those which will be covered later. Aldon is a big tool and I will try to cover as much as possible. Topic coverage. In this part we will see how to start the Aldon application on your I series or System I. We will also cover on how to set up the Aldon parameters at the various levels. Later we will see how to create and work with applications, releases, environments, developers, users and user classes. Getting started with Aldon. On the command line of your 5250 emulator, enter the command library/stracms. The library is the Aldon product installation library. Usually the library will be ACMS LIB, but it depends on the installation. This will take you to the main menu of Aldon CMS. Let's see how it works. So this is the main menu of Aldon. Working with Aldon setup. If you recall, we had discussed about 4 levels of Aldon setup: global, application, release and individual job level. We will use option 11 setup menu and then option 1 to define the various global level options. Let's see. Values entered on this panel appear as defaults on the panels used to define new applications. Enter Y in the field to the right of each setting to allow override of the global default at the application level. Or you can type an N if you do not want to override these global values. Now activate user request facility. The user request facility allows non-technical users to report concerns, request tasks, and ask questions without registering as ACMS users and without understanding ACMS tasks or the I series. Copy text to task notes category. The Aldon supports automatic copying of all notes entered for a request into one note category of a task associated with the request. To enable automatic note copying, enter the notes code of the desired note category in this field. Allow long object names. Aldon supports object names of up to 128 characters in length. To display long object names on ACMS panels where the complete name is not initially visible, you can place the cursor on the name and press F15. Default owner of objects. You can enter a name here to establish a default owner of application objects. The default owner of objects owns libraries created for an application and any application object for which there is no reference object. Activity log. Aldon can log every operation that it performs on application objects. This includes but is not limited to checkouts, promotions, additions of new objects and loading of objects. The distribution log. Object distribution is the transmitting of objects developed and tested in Aldon to other locations or other libraries on the same machine for installation and use. Aldon can log every object distribution action that it performs. The default source file text length. You can specify a default source file length which can be used by Aldon while creating source physical files. Archiving. If you recollect that archiving is optional, here is where you can set the archiving feature. Maximum copies to archive. You can specify the maximum number of copies of a particular object to keep in the archive library. When this number is reached, Aldon deletes the oldest archived copy of an object and the associated source before it places new copies in the archive library. Optionally, you can enter *NOMAX to archive an unlimited number of copies. Archive source only. Typically, both objects and the corresponding source for an object are archived, but you can direct Aldon to archive only source by entering a Y here in this field. For logical files, objects cannot be archived. Only the source is archived, regardless of the setting. If you choose to archive source only, Aldon also archives objects for non-source based objects. This ensures that something is archived for each object in the application. Compress source. You can direct Aldon to compress source by entering a Y in this field. Compressing source in the archive conserves disk space using standard IBM OS 400 compression technique. Source is automatically decompressed for browsing and restoration from the archive. These were the application level and global level options. Subsequent screens will prompt for default release level options. So this is how we can set the global defaults within Aldon. Working with applications. To begin with, we must have an application. We will use option 12 from the main menu of Aldon, work with applications. We can have multiple similar applications created under one group. In this screen, the list of applications is sorted alphabetically, first by group name and then within each group by application name. We can use these fields to position the list to the desired group or group and application. I have created a demo application for this training, and let me point to that application. I will type demo here and press enter. So here I am at the demo application. Using these, we can work with various options available for an application. If I want to check the details of this application, I can use option 5. You can use option 2 for changing the options, and I can use 4 for deleting the application. Let's take option 5. This will show me all the options and parameters which were selected at the time of creating the application. This is what we call the application level setup. Now let's see how to create an application. We can use the function key option F6 for adding an application. I can specify the application name and group name here, and using these you can define the application level options. These will be valid for this application and all the releases and jobs related to this application. However, these can be overridden by the release and job level setup options. So this is how an application is created in Aldon. Working with releases. Again, from the main menu, Aldon main menu, we will use option 13, work with releases. We can have multiple releases created under one group or application combination. Each release is associated with an application. In this screen, the list is sorted by application name, and within an application, releases are listed hierarchically. To review releases with names beginning with a specified set of characters, you can enter the set of characters in this field, find release, and press F16. I have created 3 releases, demo base, demo pack and demo fix under the demo application for this training. And let me point to the releases starting with demo. I'll type demo here and press shift F4. So here I am at the releases starting with demo. Again, using these options, you can work with various options available for a release. I can use option 5 to display the release level options or parameters. Here we are. This is what we call a release level setup. Now let's see how to create a release. We can use the function key F6 to add a new release. Here I can specify the release name which I want to create, the application and the group name. And using these you can define the release level options. These options will be valid for this particular release and all jobs related to this release. However, these can be superseded by the individual job level setup options. Now, if you recall, a release is associated with environments. The production environment will be automatically created when a release is created, whereas the integration and quality environments are optional. If these environments were not created initially and are needed now, for instance, we can use option 12, work with environments, to add other environments. Like here we can see only the production environment is there. I can use the function key F6 to add new environment. I get the options ITG and QUA. So if I type ITG and press enter, I'll get the options related to the integration environment. If I press enter here, the integration environment will be added to this particular release. Likewise, if I have a release which already has the integration and quality environments, I can use the same option 12 to delete that particular environment, like this. So this is how a release is created in Aldon. Now move on to working with developers. From the Aldon main menu, we will move to the global setup menu and take option 7. Work with developers. This panel displays a list of existing developers and allows you to select one to work with. You must define developers to Aldon CMS before checking out objects to them. You can use option F6, the function key F6, to add a local developer. A developer definition identifies object and source libraries to contain objects checked out to each developer. I'll take F6 here. You can specify the developer name, a description, and the owner of objects within that developer. Now here is where the place where I can specify the object and source library names. I can have both the objects and the sources within the same library, or I can even have different libraries containing the objects and sources within a developer. Working with users and user classes. For this, again we'll go back to the Aldon main menu, take option 11, setup menu, and type option 6, work with users and user classes. We can use this panel to add, change, display, or delete global user and user class authority definitions. You must create a global authorization record for every ACMS user. A user's authority definition will control which ACMS functions the user may perform. You must have work with global definition authority in order to add or change global authorizations. For a new installation, you can grant this authority from this particular panel after signing on as Aldon CMS. Here the list of items is sorted alphabetically. User class. We had discussed about user class. All the user classes start with an ampersand. For instance, these are the user classes available within this Aldon environment. To view the authorities that this user class is having, I can take option 8 here, and I'll get all the various authorities that this user class is having. To create a new user, I can take function key F6, add user, give the username here, a small description maybe, and the reference user class. If I want to specify some specific authorities to this user, I can keep this as star none, or if I want my user to inherit the authorities given to a group of users from a user class, I can give the user class name here. To add a new user class, I can take function key F7. To summarize, we started with how to start Aldon in your I series or System I environment. Then we saw how to set up global application release and job level setup options, how to work with releases, applications, developers, environments, users, and user classes. Well folks, this brings us to the end of part 2. If you have any queries, you may contact me through email or same time using my email ID.